So in just a second, I want to show you a clip of Glenn Grothman. He's a Republican member of the House, essentially saying that black people, that African Americans, don't have a lot of respect for family values. And then he gets absolutely demolished by Stacey Plaskett.
Has a marriage penalty in it. I bring it up because I know the strength that Black Lives Matter had in this last election. I know it's a group that it doesn't like the old-fashioned family. Disturbed that we have another program here in which we're increasing the marriage penalty.
Mr. Speaker, and I hope my colleague from Wisconsin will not leave at this time as he's talked about Black Lives Matter. How dare you say that Black Lives Matter, Black people do not understand old-fashioned families. Despite some of the issues, some of the things that you have put forward that I've heard out of your mouth in the Oversight Committee, in your own district, we have been able to keep our families alive for over 400 years, and the assault on our families to not have black lives or not even have black families. How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the black community? That is outrageous. That should be stricken down. I was going to talk about the American Rescue Plan. We know that this is going to provide relief to not only black lives, black Americans, but all Americans, that we are interested in children and in their welfare. And at this time, I yield back.
And so that was earlier today in the House, and my God, was Plaskett not brilliant there? Absolutely brilliant. She's not technically a member of the House because she represents a territory, but she more than belongs there in comparison to Grothman. Now, Grothman will say that he's not talking about black people in general, he's talking specifically about Black Lives Matter, but we all heard the dog whistle. We all heard the dog whistle there. He's trying to suggest that something in the COVID relief bill has a quote-unquote marriage penalty, and I'm not a tax expert, but what he's trying to do when he digs in there a little bit and says, well, I know Black Lives Matter, I know those folks, those people don't care a lot about family values, but I do, and my people do, and his people are going to be overwhelmingly white, and so we want to protect the sanctity of marriage and not, tax marriage differently. And what he is essentially saying is that the left, that Black Lives Matter, and that in particular, or at least as a dog whistle, black people generally do not care about the family. And Stacey Plaskett was right to slam that down. One, because that is an often used racial trope by conservatives against the African American community. Whenever there are real deal foundational social, political, economic problems that face the black community on everything from poverty to homelessness to over-policing to discrimination, that the solution offered by conservatives is the family structure. The family structure in the African American community is weak, and so that's why they struggle. And so if they could just get their stuff together, then they wouldn't have any issue, which absolves the white political, economic, social majority from any responsibility to the decades and centuries of discrimination and prejudice against black people. They can just blame it on that community. It's that community's internal problem. We don't have to do anything. But as Plaskett notes so brilliantly, African Americans, black people in particular, have had to fight so hard to preserve their families and communities. For the majority of the time, basically, that black people have been in this continent, from the 1600s until well after the midpoint of the 1800s, in much of the United States, black families weren't allowed to exist without the consent of white owners. When black people were property, when they were literal chattel, you could be sold off. It didn't matter if you had a husband or a wife or a family or children, parents, cousins, nephews, aunts, nieces. You could be sold. Your families were destroyed. Unjust policing tears fathers away from their communities. These are not problems that exist primarily because black people don't have family values. They exist overwhelmingly because white people, white institutions have destroyed black communities, including black families. So that was a great moment. I know that it's just one small part of a debate on the stimulus bill, which will likely get through the House after the amendments are reviewed from the Senate, but this was something a lot of people need to hear. Don't buy the Republican dog whistles that black families are the problem. Racism against black people remains the problem.